Hey guys, it's Andrew from Nomad Capitalist. I want to talk about bank fees today because this is something that people are confused about, both in their home country, where bank fees in many cases are growing and growing and growing, especially in the United States and Australia and even Europe now. But when people go offshore, they're not exactly sure what the deal is with bank fees. And so about a year ago, someone sent an email into my team and said, my biggest problem right now that I need help with is I'm paying bank fees. It's a lot of money. And as I recall, the team said, okay, well, how much are you paying? And the guy says, I'm paying 20 euros a month. Now, I understand in the United States and a lot of these countries, you don't make any interest on your deposits. The bankers are largely not that smart. The banks aren't that liquid or well capitalized. There's not a lot of great service. And you say, okay, what am I paying for? Well, you're paying thanks to regulations in your home country that made it difficult for banks to make a profit, and they have to get the money somewhere. So, should you pay a $12 checking account fee in the US? Maybe, maybe not. When you go overseas, the issue becomes a bit more challenging because, for example, I have one bank that is an excellent bank that I pay $40 a month for, and there's no amount of money that I can put in that account to waive that fee. But what I get for that $40 is I get a direct email to an account manager. I get help with whatever I need. If I need to reset my online banking password, I don't have to call in and go through the prompts like I would with the most dreadful bank of all time, HSBC, who you can never reach. And so I pay $40 a month for this account. And it is so worth it for my business and for me and even for my team to be able to contact them. And I've set limits for my team to be able to contact them and ask them questions about certain things I don't have to even be involved in. And so that $40 a month is well worth it. And you compare that to a bank like an HSBC, where a lot of people bank for their Hong Kong companies, where sure, there's no monthly fee and the outgoing wire fees and all that are pretty cheap. But this service is dreadful. So if you are of the position where you need to go offshore to legally save taxes and legally restructure your business, then it's well worth, in that particular case, the $40 to not have to pull your hair out anytime you have a banking issue. Now, on the other hand, you have banks, particularly the ones that aren't really even banks in some cases, in the Caribbean, the Cook Islands. Some of these banks are basically just trust accounts for other banks in other countries. And so they don't have much control over what happens. Many of these banks in the Caribbean can no longer even accept US dollars coming in. And these are the kind of banks that, because they don't have a lot of infrastructure, will sometimes charge $80 or $100 for a wire transfer. Now that's a bit ridiculous. And the issue there is that these banks are not really such big banks. They're not very efficient banks, and so you're paying the price for that. That's different. But if the issue is, hey, I'm bummed out about spending $20 to send a wire, that's a small price to pay. I understand, again, Europeans are used to SEPA, they're not used to that. But the way I look at it is this. When you're leaving the US or Canada or Australia or Europe, chances are you're doing it because you're going to save a lot of money legally in taxes. And having to pay an extra $10 to send a wire, having to pay a $40 a month fee if it gets you better service. If you're running a business, you're worth it. Your time is worth it. And it's a small price to pay in terms of fees for going offshore in order to save all of the taxes that you did when you did business back in a country where maybe they didn't charge you for the bank account, but they charged you in a whole lot of other ways. So for bank fees, not a big issue if you're banking in the right places.